Welcome to the Jboy Show, hosted by Jake Crain, the fastest growing sports show in the nation.
I'm Coach Hugh Freeze.
This is Super Bowl champion Brandon Graham.
Hey, this is DJ Shockley, and you're watching.
And thanks for watching the Jboy Show.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on another edition of the Jboy Show. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, got another great guest, a guy that played in the box, in the SEC, in the NFL, played in Canada, doing a lot of big things now. We're going to get into that. He's a name you're going to know, was one of my favorite guys to watch when he was playing. But before I do, got to give a word to one of our sponsors at betonline.ag. Online casinos open 24/7. I know NFL's over. I know college football's over. We got March Madness on the way. My favorite thing to bet, whether it's parlays, are you going to throw a bunch of bread on the 16 beating a 1? I don't know. It's happened before. I don't think you'd be crazy to do it, especially once we see how it plays out. You got Major League Baseball, the still in spring practice, working our way to the regular season. College baseball's in full force, and we know once we get into March, it's going to start rolling. So head over to betonline.ag today and tell them Jboy sent you. But without further ado, I'm bringing in a guy, like I said, I love to watch play, a guy that could defend the pass, could defend the run, and that's inside linebacker, Mike, wherever, former Georgia standout, NFL standout, Rennie Curran. Rennie, what's up, my friend?
Man, I'm doing great. Glad to be on, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. And I always say, I love taking our audience behind the helmet. I love taking our audience and really trying to take those complex situations in football that, me and you can sit here and talk about and everybody won't understand, and put it more in layman's terms. And then I want to get to what you're doing now that you're done playing, which is awesome. And you've gone in 9 different directions and they're all working, it seems like. But first, I got to ask you, a mutual friend told me, he's like, you got to ask Rennie the first question. What was his kind of welcome to the SEC moment? And did it involve Arian Foster a little bit?
Yeah, man, that was it, man. That's a memory I'll never forget. And there's certain stages you go through just being an athlete. I mean, as you know, especially when you talk about being at that D1 level and just the opportunities that you get, that there's so few and far between when you talk about playing at the University of Georgia. So for me, coming in at University of Georgia, I wasn't the guy who was expected to start right away. I was the undersized linebacker. I was that underdog story. And so for weeks leading up to that moment, man, in Tennessee, I was second string. At times I was scout team. I was really just going by faith, man, putting in the work, going in the weight room, in the film room. A lot of times when nobody was there, just putting in extra effort. Sometimes I tell people all the time, I'll be literally like a shadow of the starting defense. I'll be 20 yards behind them, not just getting mental reps, but literally like moving as the ball would snap. And just after weeks and weeks of just dedicating myself and kind of not worrying about if I was going to get that position or not, the opportunity came, man. It was in the Tennessee game. The game was pretty much over that year. It's 2007. They blew us out, and that's the worst place you want to lose is in Tennessee Stadium, because you're going to hear that rocket top until your ears bleed. But Montario Hardesty had ran a running back wheel probably in like the third quarter, and the guy starting ahead of me, he blew that coverage man to man. And so after that is when I got the call from the skybox where our linebackers coach John Jancic was, and he immediately said, "Rennie Curran, you're in."
Yeah.
And my eyes got big like deer in the headlights, and I'm 18 years old. And so run out there, man, and I look across the line of scrimmage, and first play, it's Arian Foster in the backfield, man, and he got the handoff, and I got back there, got a TFL, man, got a tackle for loss, and just got that confidence, man, that like I could actually do it. I could actually play at that level. A couple plays later, they ended up running the counter play, and there was a wide receiver. I can't remember who it was, but he came down and crack blocked the mess, like just blindsided me, man, and knocked me back about 3 quarters. And so I ended up having a slight concussion. And that's all I remember from that game. But up until that point, I was having a pretty good day.
Hey, man. And again, it's funny. You always remember the first time you go in there and you come in and do it against a guy. We all know how talented Arian was, but you talk about your preparation, Rennie. And I think, and I've had a bunch of guys on here and we talk about, going the extra mile and going the extra mile. But as a young guy, to be able to go in at a place like Georgia that has studs left and right, and to do stuff. And again, I think it gets cliche to a certain point that people say it and really don't understand it. But going that extra mile and being able to see it, because playing in the box, and I want you to go in this for me, whether it's Will, whether it's Mike, there's so much that you have to know, whether it's reading through the triangle, whether it's understanding formational tendencies, or when the tight end's in the hip, they love this, or you're going to get split zone when they line up in this. Can you talk about playing in the box and how you used to read things? And did it differ from team to team? Or were you reading through the triangle, old school? Kind of how did you do it? Kind of take our audience in there.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think you're the first person to ask me that. Just going into the huddle first and foremost, it's just like the intimidation of just the guys that you're around. Like, you have to take in that whole entire environment. It's a real experience. You get the call, and luckily, like you mentioned, preparation, you've done these things in practice so many times that you kind of have an understanding before you get to that moment. Like, if you went to the game and you're trying to go through that process in that moment, you're going to play that much slower. Your heart's going to be beating that much faster. But when you finally get to that moment, this is hours upon hours of film preparation, of looking at the tendencies and the numbers and what they like to do on 1st and 10 and 2nd and short and, 3rd and long. So you kind of have an idea. That's a big part of playing linebacker, is the anticipation, right? Yeah. It's just knowing in your head that, okay, it's 3rd and 3. And you're looking at your defense coordinator, your whoever gets to call in, and you're already expecting a certain set of calls, right? Before that, you've already kind of peeked into the mind of your defensive coach and kind of having that anticipation of what he's going to call. And then from then, in my head, I'm looking at the formation. We got 11 personnel. Okay, they got one running back. How deep is he from the quarterback?
Yes, that was my next question. Let's keep going. I love this.
Yeah,
keep going.
Where is he in relation to the quarterback, right? So I'm looking at the running back. I'm looking at the offensive lineman. Are they leaning a little bit harder? Are they sitting up? What's their body language like? The wide receiver. I'm just taking it all in the snapshot, and through that alone, I'm already getting like, I'm getting antsy. Like I'm getting that feeling. That's that that instinct.
Can see the future.
Yeah, it's like spidey senses, man. Like, when you can look at certain things and certain little details.
Yeah.
And I guarantee, if you talk to military guys, you talk to police officers, they'll say the same thing. Just through preparation, through experience, like, they can see and feel certain things before they actually happen, based off body language, based off tendencies, and just their expertise. So that's what it's really like, man, being in that huddle. And then once the ball snaps, you go into this animalistic mode.
Yeah.
Where you just like tune out. It goes quiet. You're in the zone, man. Things are flying. But you're, first thing I'm looking at my keys, and of course the triangle, seeing all the offensive linemen pulling.
Yep.
Is it, where the eyes of the quarterback? I'm looking at all that, the exchange of, the quarterback and running back, things like that, man. Looking for anything that might seem out of the ordinary, if it's like a reverse or counter or anything like that, man. Then once that ball is thrown or handed off, I'm balls to the wall,
Let's
man.
go get it.
I only
Let's
know
go
one
get
speed.
it.
Yeah, there's no hesitation. It's no doubt. It's no anything but, like, I'm gonna get here. I'm a heat-seeking missile and body bags. Like, that's
exactly. You gotta be
I'm thinking. Yeah.
And it's something, Rennie, I love that you bring that up, because one of the tendencies, and I think, that the average fan or somebody that's watching, it's like, oh, well, the linebacker's just there looking at the running back and watching what he's doing. That's not even close to what's going on. There is so much going on that pre-snap. And really, that's where the game is. That's where the chess game is. Whether, you're hearing a check or an adjustment and they're running check with me on the sideline. Now you got to flip what you're doing and find it out. But I think it's amazing. I think people would be shocked. And I think you back me up on this. How many times a back gives away the play based on the depth when they're in the gun? I'm a firm believer that's why they invented the pistol, because there were so many tendencies. I mean, I remember we had one game where it was a pass every time the back was even with the quarterback in the shotgun. If he was even with the quarterback, it was a pass. If he was a step behind, you were getting inside zone. Now, they'd run some play action off of it, but even that little bit of knowledge helps so much, Rennie. I love you diving into that, because that's really what football is. And you talk about tackling. One thing I remember about you is you were always so violent through the tackle, but you were under control. You never really had your head over your feet. And listen, everybody misses tackles every now and then when you're playing in that league. But I thought one thing you did an unbelievable job was, especially at will, was when you were on the backside of the play. And I always told the safeties, run the J, run the J, run the J. But you got to be patient as a will on the backside as well. Your ability to gator roll tackle guys was something that I thought is phenomenal. And it's clinic tape. You would laugh, but we actually, where I was, when I was at up in Montana coaching, had a tackling tape that had you on it 2 or 3 times, hitting the gator roll from the backside that I would show the wheels. Can you talk about being not only a violent guy and going in that animalistic mode, but being a pure and a sound and a fundamental tackler? Because I think that's missing from the game. It's not always about the bone crushing hit. You want to get that now, even though they throw you out of the game for that now, unfortunately. But can you talk about just being a prepared tackler? That's what I used to call it.
Yeah, I love it, man, that you brought that up. One of the biggest things for me, as far as the differentiators, when you try to get to that level, you got to set yourself apart. You got to find any type of edge, and that's one thing I love talking about too. Not only when it comes to sports, but in the business world as well. What's your competitive edge?
Yes.
What's that thing that separates you as far as your personal brand, right? For me, it was being a perfectionist when it came to technique. And just day in and day out, man, really making sure if I'm going through a drill, I'm not just going through that drill just to do it. Like I'm seeing myself making a play. I'm getting as close to perfect as I can, even in the smallest little details. I'm trying to get all the little small wins during the week so that it'll add up to me having an amazing game. And one of those things with the tackling drill. So making sure that I'm taking good angles to the ball, that I'm getting my head on the right side, that when I'm taking on the blocks, I got my hand on the inside and my elbows tight, like just all the little things I would break myself down. And this went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. Even after I became a household name and a All-American and Buckets Award, like I was still thinking and looking at and evaluating on how I could improve just a little bit more, my footwork and my stance, making sure I had a good base. And I had to, these are things that weren't just essential to me, succeeding, but it was just essential to me surviving.
That's a great way to put it.
Like 6'6", I'm going against Mike and Marquise Pouncey at Florida, who are both 6'6", 315-pound twins. And I would have to take them on. And then literally Tim Tebow is running right behind them. And Tim Tebow is like a freaking tight end himself. So I had to be a technician, man. I had to be perfect because of my height. And, because of the things that I was perceived and quote unquote perceived lacking. And so,
Yeah, well, not only did you survive, you thrived, my friend. I mean, and again, just the violence and the level of every inch or every false step that you take in that league can cost you. And you talk about being a perfectionist. The guys that don't do that, that's the difference a lot of time between making that play on the goal line, making that play to stop a first down on 4th down that gets you to the championship. And I think that's what separated you because, again, like you said, you weren't 6'5", but hell, you didn't need to be. You knew where the play was going. I always laugh. My dad played linebacker, was All-American at Auburn. He said, I ran a 4.5, 4.6 40. And when I was recruiting guys, if you had to run 40 yards to catch somebody at micro will, then I didn't want you playing. And I think that's exactly right. And how the position will be played. We're here with Rennie Curran, former standout linebacker for Georgia, played in the league. I want to ask you about that because you played not only in the NFL for a little bit, but up in Canada, up in Edmonton. And I'm going to ask you about the weather up there, being where you're from and going up there. But talk about, because and I had Carl Lawson on here and Brandon Graham and all these guys. And I love talking about this because it's such a huge moment in your life. You grow up wanting to play in the NFL and wanting to do all these type of things and be a name that people go, hey, there's Rennie Curran, NFL linebacker and stuff like that. What was it like for you when you got the call, when you got drafted, going to the Titans? I mean, and then you're wearing number 53, with Bullet. Can you just talk about that moment? Because you talk about preparation, and there's so many things that happen when eyes aren't on you to get to that moment that people would never know about. And I'm sure just for you and your family, man, it just what a blessing and what a moment.
Oh yeah, man. It was definitely one of the greatest blessings and greatest moments of my life, but also one of the most stressful moments. Just because you're sitting there and you don't know, you don't know when you're going. It doesn't matter if you're in the first round or if you're you're expecting to be the last pick. Like that thing is extremely, extremely stressful because you just got to think, man, this is like what your whole entire life up until this point has been leading to. You're blessed to be in this position, but you've been, busting your ass your entire life. For me, I was, like I said, I was the guy who wasn't even expected to go to University of Georgia. When my recruiting process first started, my coaches were like, hey, don't be surprised if schools don't even call you because you're undersized for your position. So those are the things that I heard throughout my entire career, the short jokes, on top of my family struggling like my whole entire, from like 7th grade until I made it to the NFL, man. My dad had lost his business. My mom almost died at a certain point, like 8th, 9th grade. Like, so we're we were struggling, man. Like I'm talking paycheck to paycheck, like at times couldn't afford, the light bill, couldn't afford the garbage bill, like just that type of situation, food bank, free and reduced lunch meals. So when you always been in that position, like where people have helped you, man, and like where you've had trainers who've allowed you to train for free, like where you had teachers who stayed with you extra hours, like all those memories start coming back up, man. All the times you heard you undersized, all the times you were laughed at, you know, uh, I mean, everything just comes rushing back to you at
Yeah.
once. And then when you see your name called, man, it's just like a beautiful transcending moment, and it was just powerful just because I had my family all around me. They were all crying, like shedding tears, and just like it's powerful, man. Just knowing that you not only worked hard, but that you had so many people that were part of that. So it's like
Yeah.
you're not the only one that wins in that moment. You're not the only one who gets drafted. Everybody who's a part of you, that helped you, that poured into you, that prayed for you, that spoke into you, they also, it's like they win as well. They get drafted as
Yeah.
well. And so
And
it,
yeah.
yeah.
Man, that's that. I appreciate you sharing that, Rennie. I know that's a personal moment. I got one more question about that, because there's a lot of guys that are in situations coming up that are trying to go to the NFL that, maybe economically or something happened or that they're the ones that carry that weight. Those are the guys that carry that weight. And it's probably unfair. And it is unfair to probably ask a 16, 17, shoot, even younger than that, 18-year-old kid to carry that weight. And can you talk about being the guy? Because I know you're the type of guy that probably wanted it. You're the type of guy that probably wanted it. Put it on me. That's fine. 4th and run it at me. That's fine. That's the mindset that I have. Can you talk about carrying that weight as being a guy that said, listen, damn it, I'm going to make it. And I'm going to make it not only for us, not only for the city, but for the family, and just how you handle it. Because you won. I mean, you did it. Can you just talk to, because I know there's guys out there that are going through it right now, Rennie, and they need to be out doing the stuff that you did. They need to be doing the extra stuff, regardless of how talented or gifted they are. You just happen to do it without being 6'5".
Right. Yeah. I just had a different mission, man. Like it was so much bigger for me than just the game. Like it wasn't just about making tackles. It wasn't just about winning. It wasn't just about the scholarship. Like it was so much deeper. Like my earliest experiences, man, were seeing my parents, just their grind, man, them coming to this country, having nothing and like building themselves and helping my family that was back home in Liberia, where they migrated from, seeing them not only bring family over here, but help them get situated. Like some of them would spend a year in our house or more. So spending not sleeping on the floor, like seeing my parents take what they earned and send half of it back home and helping our family that were refugees come over here, start a whole new life. Like my mom waking up 4 a.m, cooking, like, just feeding everybody, man. Those were my earliest experiences. So I took that same mentality of leadership and selflessness and just, putting family on my back, man, onto the football field. So for me, it was, like I said, it was so much bigger. So when our backs were against the wall and was, fourth down and the game is on the line, when we're down by 2 touchdowns, I'm thinking in my head, like, man, I got to do something. I got to make something happen. And that's just in my DNA, man. That's from the beginning. Like I said, that's what I saw. And so I immediately hinged onto what was my second nature.
Yeah.
And it made me that much better of a football player for it.
Man, Rennie, I appreciate you sharing that, man. Because again, it's something where you made it through, and I know there's people, struggling right now, wondering, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? I appreciate you sharing that. And real quick, I do, speaking of sharing, want to share one of our sponsors right now and something they got going. Head over to ebay.com/sneakers, whether you're looking for old shoes, new shoes, the new Jordans, whatever, the Crocs, it doesn't matter. eBay's got everything, shower shoes, sandals. So head over to ebay.com/sneakers today. They have a whole team full of authenticators. They'll make sure the shoe's exactly what you want. The tongue, the laces, the box, the logo. There is no funny business. So head over to ebay.com/sneakers today. But we're here with Rennie Curran, talking some linebacker play. And we talk about going from Georgia in the SEC. You do your thing there. You go to the NFL, which we all know is a huge step up. Just talk about the NFL and then going up to Canada. Like I said, I was up in Montana, so I know that cold weather, man. And I was south of you. So again, I'm not 100% sure how cold it was when you were there, but what was it like playing in the league and then going to Canada? Then I want to get to what you're doing now, because, man, you got a lot of stuff rolling.
Yeah, man. It was definitely a journey, man. Getting to the NFL was one thing. Like when you get to that level, there's so many complexities to just being at that level. At 20, I was 22 years old, 21, 22 years old when I got to that level, man. So, you talk about the transition in terms of just being at that level performance wise and just trying to get adjusted to being a professional athlete, walking in the building, basically having a 9 to 5, being in a new city, right? Dealing with just being by yourself. Like I was always in Georgia. I was always in Atlanta. I was always around family. Now I'm in Nashville, new environment. I got my own townhouse, like for the first time ever. I got money that I never had before. I was always that college kid on, Pell Grant and surviving off that Pell Grant for a whole semester. Now I got freaking my first installment was 90 grand. It's like,
man, which might as well be 10 million if you didn't have anything before. Might as well be 10 million.
Yeah, at 22 years old, $90,000, like you set like for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you set, man, after eating them ramen noodles and all that for so it was just
where's the first restaurant you went to though? Tell me when you got it. I know you went somewhere to eat. Did you just I'm gonna Google the best restaurant in Nashville, wherever, and I'm gonna go there. Was there a special place you went to right when you got that? Because you're right, it's so crazy going from really you talk about Drake started from the bottom, now we're here. Was there a place you went to kind of celebrate or something like that?
Man, I can't even I think it was like Stony River we went to, man.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to Stony River, and you got the rookie hazing, of course, which was surprising because I'm like, bro, we all grown men here. Y'all seriously still hazing us like we're in high school? But yeah, they really do, and they take pride in it. So we go to Stony River, got the whole linebackers group, and I probably spent about 12 grand in Stony River. Yeah, it was like feeding the linebacker crew. They made sure they ordered for their wives, like all that. They made me get a limo for them, and like they didn't even ride in it. They just I ended up riding in a limo by myself. But
that's hilarious.
Man, it was a lot of crazy experiences like that, man. Just being able to go places you only dreamed of, right? Like you used to watch on TV. Like I got to go to the Super Bowl. I got to go to New York, got to go to LA, like all these different places, man. It was an amazing experience. And some of the perks that you get too, don't get me wrong, it's extremely, extremely hard work. Like you're expected to be a machine, but there's some great perks too. Like one of my favorite perks, and there's been a couple guys who've talked about it before, but being able to get like a Nike Elite account, that was pretty dope. Like you get, anywhere from 5-10 grand of Nike merchandise. And so of course the family's decked out in on Nike for Christmas. Everybody's getting hooked up. And then if you go to a city, let's say you go to play in Miami, and Miami has a Nike town, you can hit up that Nike town the day before, let them know, hey, I'm coming in, and you can go in and do like $1,000 shopping spree at
my man, I gotta get me one of those, man. I need this show to get big enough, Rennie, where I can go just into Nike Town and be like, listen, I'm gonna need a stack to go in here and blow on some clothes.
Yeah, exactly, man. So there was a lot of dope, perks and things like that as part of being an NFL player. But it was like no other job. It's no different than any other 9-to-5 job. It's just like that. Being in the NFL, I tell people, it's like corporate on steroids.
So, I like that. I'm gonna write that down. I like that.
Yeah, it's corporate on steroids. So the same, politics that you face in the corporate world, same type of, competition, culture, when it comes to leadership, how all those things play a role in the corporate world is the same thing that exists in the NFL. So face a lot of that as well too, especially when you talk about there's a new coaching staff change or new regime change. That's where you see a lot of the politics, a lot of things that are out of your control. It's about who they've invested in, who they've, put their name down on the line for, a lot of that. So if a team comes, new coach comes in, he drafts 3 new linebackers, or, in my case, it was 2 new linebackers, and then they brought in 1 through free agency. And then you got a guy like a Chris Johnson who rushes for 2,000 yards, and now they got to pay him, right? Whereas they only have a certain amount of money that they can dish out for that salary cap. That means they got to cut some.
It's exactly right.
They got to cut some people, man. So, like I said, it's no different than the corporate world dealing with products, but the biggest difference is we are the product. Right?
Yeah. No, it's a great way to put it, and it's a great segue into what I want to ask you, because you get done playing. You have this career where you accomplish everything, that you wanted, and you get drafted and go to the NFL and you play in the CFL and all that. And now, I'm looking at your author, keynote speaker. I mean, just a true businessman, entrepreneur. to the fullest. Can you talk about what you've got going right now, man? Because it's great stuff and you've had a ton of success. And I know you're just getting started and I know there's big things on the way.
Yeah, no, thank you for that question, man. And all that started honestly while I was playing, and I'm so passionate about helping athletes build their brand while they're going through it, while they're playing, not waiting till the end, not waiting till the 8th year of their career to start thinking about even who they are, right? Like getting cut after my 2nd year from the Titans was the greatest blessing when I look back, because I had about 8 months to really work on myself, to start reading books on leadership and self-help and personal development, and start meeting with business leaders and start going to workshops. And that's what, man, gave me that real reality check, is when I went to my first career transitioning workshop at 23 years old, and I saw guys that were 35 years old who played 10 years in the league and were still lost and confused, and they had all the money in the world, but they still didn't know what they wanted to do with themselves. And that was like, wow, that was just that wake up moment for me, where it was like, man, even if I'm play this long, even if I get all this money, you mean to tell me I could still wake up and I could still be lost? So that gave me that sense of urgency to really start working on my personal brand, start focusing on, okay, how can I, outside of this jersey, provide value to the business world? And that's when I started, like I said, doing all those things, began writing my first book, released it at the age of 24, continued working on my business degree, networked, and eventually I started speaking once I released my book, but I connected with a guy by the name of John Gordon, who's written some amazing books, Energy Bus, Training Camp, so on and so forth. Connected with him and started speaking under his brand. Started getting into coaching, got certified for that, life and business coaching with the Life Purpose Institute. So really just started not only building myself, but started really understanding how to leverage my experiences and my knowledge and my relationships to provide value to individuals, teams, and organizations.
Yeah, man. Well, I got to take my hat off to you, because especially having that perspective as a 23-year-old, to be able to realize I need to diversify my portfolio outside of being good at football. And I think that goes back to your experiences of understanding, listen, I want to wear the weight, put it on me. I can adjust, I can transition. Obviously, you're doing an unbelievable job. And where can everybody go, Rennie? Because I got one more question for you. The Georgia fans will kill me if I didn't ask you. But where can everybody go if they want to book you to speak, if they want to read your book, because it's absolutely fantastic? Where can they go to find you? Because again, like I said, you've got a ton going and you're only adding to it.
Thank you, man. Yeah, so the easiest way to get in touch with me is through my website, renniecurran.com. And I'm also very active on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So if you want to reach out to me, just hit me up, message me. I'm always happy to help, and I'm an open book. So I'm constantly mentoring younger athletes, work with businesses, associations, with schools. So yeah, I'm a servant, man, at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's great stuff. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm still figuring out LinkedIn. I feel like I've got Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff figured out. I'm still figuring out LinkedIn a little bit, but I'm understanding, how valuable of a resource it is. But Rennie, the Dogs, a lot of expected. You got JT Daniels at quarterback. You're returning some guys, especially up front on defense, which everybody says, oh, they're not returning any corners. Well, again, they're going to be talented at Georgia, regardless, even if they're young. But as well as I do, the best way to hide young corners is with a damn good defensive line. Georgia's going to have that. What do you think about the Dogs this year? And is this the year Kirby takes down the mighty Saban, Rennie? I'm putting you on the spot. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I'm starting to lean that way. I think Georgia, this may be their best shot.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think if we can mount a consistent effort offensively, like this can definitely be the year. And of course, we got to have that strong defense. So although we lost a lot of production, in terms of, just when you look at the Richard LeCounts and Eric, Stokes and Monty Rice, I mean, that's a lot of production, man. Azeez Al-Jilari, just so many playmakers across the board. But one thing I do know is we got extreme amount of talent.
Yeah.
So it's really going to be about how he's developing these guys, not only from the performance standpoint, but also the leadership standpoint. As you know, man, that's to me is like the X factor, the camaraderie, like how well these guys play together, how much they believe in each other. The teams that I played on that were the greatest, like we had that collective like belief in each other and in what we were doing. Everybody bought in, everybody did what they needed to do. It wasn't about who got what stats. It wasn't about who's going to the league and who's not. It's just about us all coming together. And if they can build that, if they have those guys who are able to step up, can rally the troops, which is something that I didn't really see a lot of last year. we had the talent, but we didn't have collectively that sense of peer-to-peer leadership that you need. You have to have
policing yourself.
Yeah, policing yourself. It can't just be about Kirby, yelling at these guys and ringing them around the neck. Like, it has to start from the players, I believe, because they're the ones on the field.
That's exactly
so.
Right.
Yeah, we can establish that, man. Collectively as a team, I think you're definitely going to see great things. And the last time we were in the national championship, you can look back at that team and you can clearly see who those leaders were. Sony Michel, Nick Chubb. You have Roquan, guys that stepped up and not only talked it, but they walked it. They made the big plays when they needed to be made, and did things that needed to be done. So that's what I think is going to come down to, man. And the talent is just that icing on the cake. The 5-star is just the icing on the cake.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. You knocked that one out of the park, obviously, as a guy that did it. And when all that talent's even, there's only a few things that can separate you. And that's exactly what you're talking about right there. But Rennie Curran, dude, I've got to get you back on, especially as we get closer to the season through spring practice. We'll dive into more, man. The linebacker talk was awesome. It was all great. Make sure you hit him up on his website. Check him out on LinkedIn as well. Go get that book. It's fantastic. He's got big things popping. I just really appreciate you, Rennie. You're a real one watching you play, man. You knocked the interview out of the park like I thought you would, and I got to get you back on soon.
Thank you, Jay, man. It's been a pleasure being on, and I definitely want to come back on. I got some real big things coming that I want to definitely share with you and the Bulldog Nation and everybody else in the college sports world. So thank you, man. Go Dogs.
Hey, anytime, brother. And I appreciate you guys joining us, whether it's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Get that merch at thejboyshow.com. Whether it's the black hoodie, we got the gray hoodie in, the home away hats, the home away shirts. I'm going to get some to you, Rennie, so you can rock it if you want. If not, just leave it in your closet and I'll never know the difference. But make sure you head over there, tell your friends, hit subscribe. It's been another edition of the Jboy Show. It was one of the best linebackers to do it in SEC, Rennie Curran. And Jboy's gone.
The Jboy Show is produced by David Cohn, Technical Director Dave Hammock, Creative Director David Culbertson, Audio Engineer Feyzan Shareef, Production Assistants Blaine Crain and Kyle Orr, Executive Producers Jake Crain, Vince Thompson, Steve Chamberlain, and David Cohn. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, thejboyshow.com, for updates regarding our newest apparel and merch designs. Win the water cooler with the Jboy Show.